I'm white, and I've got everything I need. No one clutches their purses when they're in a room alone with me. And I can drive through any neighborhood I please at any hour, and the police don't do a thing. So if I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone and fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I got everything I need. I'm a guy getting paid more than a girl with a degree. And I can walk down the streets after dark, no one wants to rape me. And I can get a girl pregnant and just as easily flee. Just like my straight white male dad did to me. So if I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone and fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need. I've got a pile of broken mirrors and I'm walking under ladders and I'm spilling tons of salt, but to me that doesn't matter, cause my skin and my gender and my orientation are the best things to have if you live in this nation. I recommend it highly. If I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone and fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need. Shit's gonna work out for me, cause I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Intellectual Dollar Tree. We do the show live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific right here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. Also simulcasting other places, but whatever. I'm producer Dave. You can find me on Grindr, and you can support this project by going to echoplexmedia.com/support. HK is out this week and will be back next Wednesday. So what we have here this week, unfortunately, and I do mean unfortunately, is we got Bill Maher talking to the Trigonometry guys in Bill Maher's Pee-wee's Playhouse ass fucking studio. So without any further ado, here is this week's infuriating content.
The left went to places that we all know are goofy. They don't fucking know that much. So don't make pronouncements like you have a monopoly on the truth.
Why does that irritate you, Bill? Because
I don't like lying. Like you say, we don't want to pretend. Be a little fucking mysterious. You know, not everybody has to know your opinion on every fucking issue.
Well, that's funny that Bill Maher says that.
With on Facebook.
It's like me saying that.
Just shut the fuck up. Everybody just shut the fuck up.
Bill, it's great to see you again.
Thanks. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much for giving us your time. Listen, we'll get straight into it. I always think of you as kind of the classical Hollywood liberal. And in the last few years, maybe unfair characterization, but in the last few years, you really broken with the orthodoxy here. You made a joke on your last show when you first came back after writer strike, kind of like about not having any friends in Hollywood.
Only because he set me up for it, but it was perfect at that moment.
Yeah,
it was funny. I mean, they left me. I didn't leave them. I mean, I'm the same. That's
it's that fucking saying. Unfortunately, the only place I really remember it for is from a Pearl Jam song. But it's like, I've changed by not changing at all. Yeah, if you fucking stay in the same place and the world passes you by, everybody that passed you by is going to think you've changed.
It's like the left went to places that we all know are goofy. You know, and it's like, I'm a comedian. I'm going to make fun of funny. You know, if you do...
All right, such as?
Obama was a scorched earth policy for comedy, you know, which was great. He wasn't a buffoon. But I
didn't... Good for the country, bad for comedy.
Yeah, right. But that's not the case now with, you know, I mean, identity politics and victim culture and cancel culture.
Yeah, this guy is just going to put on a fucking demonstration of how he turned into the very thing he used to make fun of.
Hostility to free speech. These are all great targets. and worthy targets. And I, was always willing to, people, I think, don't remember how much I was always willing to go after it on the left, but there just was less of it. Clinton wasn't an idiot either. I mean, they tried to get him out of office because of a blowjob. Whose side was I going to be on? Right? So, things changed. I mean, was it Jonathan Haidt? Is he the one who wrote the book?
Oh, no, not Jonathan
His
Haidt.
theory, I think he got it right. It was like 2015. It was like Gen Z ascends or something. And like, we thought they were
That
gonna
wasn't
backlash
Jonathan
to
Haidt's
the
book.
millennials.
Jonathan Haidt is one of those race and IQ
Like
guys.
10 times worse. It's like AI. It was exponential.
But the problem is, Bill, is that you look on comedy on TV, and with a few exceptions, one in particular being your show, it's got really toothless. And that's a dangerous place.
Well, I've gotten into trouble talking about this subject before, so I'm going to take a pass on this question.
Fair enough.
Because I'm friends with some of these guys. I certainly am an admirer of some of these guys and their talents. So,
Guys, huh?
I do think
Some of the comedians, you mean?
your basic premise is correct that there is one that doesn't look anything like the others, but that's partly also because I'm not a celebrity-driven show. I'm not having on sitcom stars and just that's what I'm doing here for Club Random more. No, I think we have great people here, but we don't necessarily talk politics. So they're doing
Club Random is a politics show.
broad vaudevillian shows. I'm doing a political show. I don't hardly ever have a celebrity. I mean, show business people. Yes, sometimes at the beginning of the show we'll have an iconic, Rod Stewart. How are you going to say no to that or something? But it's. But most of the show is a panel with, you were on it. It's got to be people who are like super smart about what the fuck is going on in the world. That's not what those guys, so some of it is just built in. And then, I have different takes on stuff. And,
This is going to be awful.
I tell you, there is a little too much like uniformity of opinion, premise,
And I think that's one of the main problems with society at the moment, Bill, is that it does seem to be a uniformity of opinion, both on the left and the right, where we just
shut up,
put
no,
ourselves
Oliver.
into tribes and are scared because we're in tribes to actually go, hang on, I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I may have told this story before, but like every year I look at writers' packets, like see who's out there. And it's like this the lack of diversity of point of view. I mean, it's one thing to write the punchline, but like, what is your point of view about a subject? So I think what they had to do was write about the, events of that week, see if they can write a monologue joke. And I think it was the week when Meloni took over in Italy.
Yeah.
And it was like uniformly, she's a fascist.
Well, what are her politics,
Family
Bill?
has fascist roots. I mean, this came up somewhere in conversation, and I said, well, if we go back, the Democrats were the party of slavery. Right.
Wait, what? What does that have to do with what? What does that have to do with the person who got elected to the leadership of Italy? Yeah, but I guess Bill does have a different take on things. It's an absurd take, a take that involves a pretty big non sequitur, a take that ignores a whole lot of history.
Everybody's got a past. So I don't know. I said, I don't follow Italian politics closely.
I don't follow Italian politics, but it's like it's like comparing the Democrats to the KKK. I don't follow it though.
Like, I'm just like off the get-go going to say, this lady's a fascist.
It's all one-dimensional, isn't it?
And that's what every writer wrote based on the premise. She's a fascist. I was like, okay. Yeah, that kind of stuff, it just gets in the ether that this is the opinion.
So Bill knows nothing about Italian politics or this person's policies or how they campaigned, right? But he's like, well, this is all boring if the premise of the joke is that this person's a fascist. Bill used to tell hella jokes about racists. He was bagging on the Tea Party so much, and that's sort of where his fucking, where his brain stopped working. And we're probably going to get into it. Yeah, we're probably going to hear it. his view on conservatism is probably ends right around the Tea Party or right somewhere in the middle of the Obama administration.
Lazy. They don't really, they want to seem knowledgeable but not really know anything.
But wait, you just said you don't know anything about Italian politics. What if the people in the writer's room do?
Wants to do the reading. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to be the college kid who turns up, who knows what they're talking about, but no one wants to go and read the books.
You see that nowhere more than what's, Israel. Whenever now that the war is on, they just do not understand the history of this conflict and, that land. And so it's just screaming at each other over, identity politics. It's tribalism.
But there was another.
Wait. How is it identity politics? No, this is like the politics of war and conflict.
Which I think where you gained a lot of people's respect, not that you didn't have it already from many people, but there were a lot of new people, and you've talked about it recently about how there are conservatives now coming to see you live.
Yeah, mixed audiences.
Which is a great place to be.
Great.
But I think part of the reason is that you really made a break with what people thought was your team over COVID. You really made a break with them.
Absolutely.
But Bill was always an anti-vaxxer.
You're right. I was very forthright. I didn't hold back with what I thought. I mean, I had already been cast as an anti-vaxxer, which,
Bill is an
it's almost
anti-vaxxer.
impossible to deny that, because it's very much like the witch. If she floats, she's guilty. That thing. Like if I say I'm not an well, that's what an anti-vaxxer would say. It's just these people. You can't argue with people like that. So. But no, my view has always been pretty much the same. I always made a theme on real time from the beginning. 2003, I remember arguing with Howard Dean, who was a doctor, in 2004 about medical, just taking that position of I'm not all in with Western medicine, and I think there's a lot of corruption.
But what's really funny is the thing that he calls Western medicine is actually practiced throughout the world. They talk about Western medicine and shit, and they go, I'm into some Eastern medicine. And when they say the East, they usually mean like China and a lot of Asian countries. The problem is you go to a hospital there, and what do they practice? They practice what you would describe as Western medicine.
And I think there's just a lot we don't know. Those are my two big ones. It's like, is there corruption? Yes, we just found out with the Sackler family, for example, the people who make... what was it, OxyContin, and I think they got fined $8 billion.
Or people addicted to the vaccine?
It's, we know they're capable of being corrupt, for purposely hooking people on their hillbilly heroin, so we know they're capable of it. But even when they're not trying to be corrupt, I mean, I don't think they were trying to make a vaccine that then didn't prevent you from getting it. They, of course, wanted that to be the result. They came up with a vaccine, I think, that is very appropriate for people who are not in good health. And probably if you have it, your life was saved by something that could have killed you.
Wait, what?
But I don't fit that profile. So I shouldn't have had that.
Wait, what? The vaccine could have killed you? See, this is like bullshit. Like, even if you take the VAERS numbers, and those are fucking gamed by anti-vaxxers, even if you take those as if those are real, it's still more dangerous to get COVID, no matter who you are.
Is that why you spoke up about it? Because you just felt it was a one-size-fits-all solution?
Correct. It's not scientific. It shouldn't even be a political issue. It should be a medical issue. It's just medical.
Right, but that's great. Then you should go to your doctor and listen to your doctor if it's a medical issue, and that's fine, because contrary to what you would believe by watching YouTube and shit, the vast majority of the medical community is just like, oh yeah, you should probably get the vaccine.
Stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I've certainly lost plenty of people, but those kind of people were never really gonna be completely happy with me, and they never were completely happy with me. They didn't like me about religion stuff.
Well, that's because first of all, a lot of the stuff you said about religion was just false. Like, a lot of his stuff in the Religulous movie about the Jesus myth was false. So that's one. And two, like, a lot of the stuff about religion after 9/11, it was mostly about Islam and how it was like a religion of savages or whatever. Him and Sam Harris were like super big on that. But like a lot of like progressive people are secular or atheist.
But Bill, isn't the problem as well, and you've just alluded to it actually, is you said politics got involved. Now, all three of us sitting here.
COVID?
Yeah, with COVID,
yeah.
but with everything.
Oh.
Politics gets involved now with everything.
Yes.
Every decision you make, you just see, like a perfect example of this, Konstantin and I were in Amsterdam, and we saw, one of these, flamethrowers or flame jugglers, whatever it's called. And before he started his act...
A street performer,
that's it. Before he
A
started...
flamethrower, a street performer. I thought a flamethrower was like a weapon.
Fact, he gave a 5-minute political lecture about the Dutch right-wing government. And I'm like...
And then he started juggling balls.
That was part of his act. Don't knock the hustle, Non Oliver. Like, look at your act, Non Oliver. Your act is to play second fiddle to a guy who put a fucking laugh track in his stand-up routine before he uploaded it to YouTube.
I still get politics rammed down my throat. I mean, that's the
Right.
problem, isn't it?
That is certainly one of the problems. It's a theme also in my stand-up act now at the end when I'm talking about how we can't go the Marjorie Taylor Greene, we need a national divorce route. We cannot get divorced, even if we want to. It's just not practical. It's stupid. So we have to learn to, yes, get along and just live side by side with assholes you can't stand. And, and part of that is just not always talking about politics. We never used to do that when I was a kid. Parents and saw them with their friends, and it was almost considered impolite.
Yeah.
Politics and religion. Mm-hmm. So you didn't know that you hated this guy, right?
Well, it is still like if I go to a dinner party, I'm not like people ask what I do, and I just tell them that I like stream, that I'm like a podcaster, and people say, "What are your podcasts about?" And I start to get a little fucking weird about it because I don't want to talk to that. First of all, if that person ends up wanting to like talk to me about the issues of the day, then where I'm at, it just feels like work, right? Because now I do this for a living, and this is work. I enjoy this, but this is work. So if I'm at a dinner party, my parents have a bunch of people over, we go to dinner with some people, like whatever, man, I do not want to talk about any of this shit because like my brain is so scrambled from it. But I guess that's different.
It was just your neighbor, and they got along great. And don't share everything would be one of my big pieces of advice. Be a little fucking mysterious,
But Bill, everybody knows everything you believe on every topic, and that's fine. That's you're a pundit. That's fine.
Every kid you ever went to school with on Facebook, really? They have to know what you think about ivermectin? Just shut the fuck up. Everybody just shut the fuck up about politics 24/7, and otherwise we're always going to be this. Because is anybody ever convinced of anything?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, I've changed my mind on a great number of things over the last 5 or 6 years. Yes. Softened my positions on things, hardened my positions on other things. Yes. Had people explain things to me in a way that made me rethink things. Yes, this happens. Yes.
Well, we can't even agree what men and women are anymore.
Oh, get
So
the fuck
if we
out of
can't
here.
agree with that, about
the
that,
fuck up,
then
Non
how are we
Oliver.
going to agree on something
You hack.
like Israel, which is a very, very serious, complex issue?
well, you can tell the women from the men in my hut. I don't know what you're doing, man.
Well, we're more
That is
progressive.
not a problem. No, I know. I mean, it's easy to say. Of course we do, but yeah, I mean, that's one of those issues. But to me, it's always like if we weren't crazy and completely political, like you say, and always partisan about everything, we could just agree, okay, some people are trans, so their gender thoughts don't match with their gender equipment. Of course. And also some of it's trendy.
Oh, okay. So let's say that's true, because remember there was a big thing about, because Blair White was fucking trying to walk that line for a minute. Remember when she was like, well, those people are just trans trenders. But like fucking, why is like Bill Maher's what, 60 something? He's like would be retirement age if he had a manual labor job, right? He'd be getting ready to retire. So maybe it's not for a retirement age person to tell a fucking 15-year-old what's going on in their head. Maybe if we just be kind to young people who are working through this, maybe they'll work it out themselves, and kind and supportive when they ask for it, and maybe stay out of their business when they don't ask for our help. I mean, I'm 46 years old. I'm not going to get in the business. I don't give it, like, it's not that I don't care. It's that it's none of my business, like about trans youth, like teenagers. None of my business.
Nobody wants to like get on that obviously true center position. I'm not saying it just because it's taking from both sides, because it's actually true. Some of it is trendy, and it's also a real thing that should be protected. Really, nobody could like run on that kind of shit. There's no.
Well, just a little bit of questioning on that actually would make it hard for the person claiming that, because I would be like, well, then who decides? Who decides when it's trendy? And what is the harm if somebody, through social pressure, even if that's not even the right way to talk about it, but what if somebody, through just the way society is, starts to question their own gender identity, and then they say, maybe I'm just cis or whatever. Like, what's the harm there? I don't understand. There's no harm. No harm is done.
Nobody out there who could like fucking just take all the issues and kind of do that, the border, like, yes, we need to just not have a one size fits all. And also, we're not going to bomb them. It's like everyone just goes to what's nuttier.
Isn't it weird? Like, it's either like trans women are women, doesn't matter if they have a penis. Or on the other hand, is like women need to go back in the kitchen. Isn't there some kind of middle?
No, actually, oh no.
Down there?
I just feel like we talk about these issues on this kind of show and all over the news and everyone so much. And it's just a very small, not that they shouldn't be respected, but it's just a very small, it reminds me of Albert Brooks once said, like.
But the thing is, like, he's he lacks the perspective to like figure out why it's become it's not that it was never an issue or whatever, and that it's not important for the people who are in that community. I mean, I'm part of the LGBTQ plus community, and I've always known trans people and gender nonconforming people, even people who I would maybe view as having some gender nonconforming traits, even though I believe them to be cis. Like, this has always been a thing, but it's that like shitty bigots and people. Actually, if you check the guest list for the trigonometry show, you might find out why everybody's talking about this so much now. It's because if there's like a cultural movement that is exclusionary and trying to like erase you or trying to discriminate against you and people like you, then yeah, you're going to end up talking about it more too, because you have to like organize and there's you have to have language to tell people to go fuck themselves and whatnot. Like, it's not how he's describing it. This is like a gross sort of fake enlightened centrist take on it. I think the moderate take on this is like, leave these people alone. If you don't understand it, that's fine. You don't have to understand everything. Just leave them alone. Leave them alone, and be kind and respectful when you run into people whose gender you don't understand. That's the moderate position. The moderate position isn't like, well, we need to sort out the fucking wheat from the chaff and figure out who's a trendy person, and then the people everybody's talking too much about it, and like, get the fuck out of here.
TV, it's like every show is about a private detective. If you look in the phone book, there's only two real private detectives.
I know what you mean, and I get frustrated talking about some of the stuff because a lot of it isn't that interesting. It really isn't. A lot of these things.
You mean the
trans thing,
right,
all this other stuff, because
it's not. Said, look at this guy's guest list of his show. He's like, oh, this isn't that interesting. Then why is like every third or every other episode of Trigonometry about this exact issue, Konstantin? If you don't think it's that interesting, then why is this basically like possibly the most common thing on your show? If it's not the most common thing, it's second only to like weird shit about race.
We all know what the fucking truth is, right? And all of these political posturing positions are insane. However,
Well, what is the truth then,
do-
Konstantin? What is the? We all know what the truth is. What's the truth?
I think that, the idea of truth is really important.
Very.
And so what bothers me is people making me pretend
Right.
that things that are
Right.
blatantly false
Right.
are not. Like the emperor's naked
That's-
and he's got his dick out.
No, you said it very well. Making me pretend. That's what, like a lot of the people who watch shows like yours and mine, like about what we do, is it's just that protestation. Don't make me pretend. Like there's just a lot of pretending.
Pretend what?
The far left woke people are so intimidating. They have crazy, stupid ideas about a lot of stuff.
Like what?
But they're really good at media, and people are just intimidated that the mean girls of Twitter will destroy you. So you can just be really out there with whatever you say, woke-wise, and
But like what? Like this is all like they talk about this in the abstract, right? Like I think that there's stuff where what they call identity politics goes too far, and it's not like in the mainstream. It's not powerful. It's people who get too passionate about issues, and their blinders get put on, and they like maybe stop even trying to figure out why people disagree with them, or don't even accept that people disagree with them. Like fucking what Konstantin just said right there. I think that's a prime example of one of the problems in our discourse. Is that Konstantin just said, well, we all know the truth. Some people are just pretending. And it's like, well, you're really taking away the agency of people who disagree with you when you say shit like that. I don't believe that people who say that they disagree with me actually agree with me and are just disagreeing with me to put on a fucking show or something. And that requires a lot of assumptions. And you almost have to like tell people that you're reading everyone's mind if you say that. No, like people that don't agree with you. And if people while out a little bit, they're just passionate about the issue. They're not media trained. It's probably a combination of the two. No, a passion about an issue and no media training or no experience in like organizing or, in political action. So you're just looking at like a random person who's passionate about something, maybe doesn't even have all the information that they're looking for. This is not what drives the discourse.
who know better will just, nah, it's going to let that one pass. Too dangerous, And so that's how you get a lot of the stuff that, like you say, we don't want to pretend.
No.
I don't want to pretend that, women and men in sports or anything comparable. If
Which sport?
worst NBA team played the best WNBA team, the score would be 1,000,000-0.
It would not be 1,000,000-0. He's exaggerating, but it would probably be closer than he thinks it would be. Basketball is actually one of those sports where raw physical strength doesn't matter that much. It's like a sport of teamwork and precision and speed.
Insult to women is just the way it is.
Yeah.
And to make
Like I also wonder, like I bet we could find before this sports issue became a big thing. I bet we could find these people. Maybe not Bill so much, because Bill generally has not been very sexist in his in his rhetoric. But I bet if these two were doing stand-up comedy, which they claim they were doing for a long time before they started trigonometry, don't worry about the fact that you can't really find any record of them having been part of any comedy scene in London during the age of the internet where everything is recorded. But if they were, I bet you could have found them making jokes about women's sports.
Why does that irritate you, Bill? Because
I don't like lying.
Well, see,
I just don't bullshit. But you can. I have tons of friends on both sides, even far woke, far Trump, whatever. As long as you're sincere, but don't fucking lie to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so my take, and people actually don't always like my take on this, and I think I have the moderate take. I think that the governing bodies for women's sports should be the ones deciding these issues, and it's really not. I'm ignorant. I don't have the information. I'm not a fan of women's sports. I don't watch much women's sports, and that's it. I think the governing bodies for And this is like at the tippy top of this fucking sports shit too. Most people that play sports are like, they do it for fun, right? Like most, like, I don't know, there's got to be people that hang out in my chat who like to go shoot hoops, play basketball, go play catch, maybe play flag football with their friends or something. So like, we're talking about like the fucking pinnacle of sports. We're not, and I got to tell you, you're like local high school teams, those are not the pinnacle of sports, right? We're not at the fucking tippy top of the sports or whatever there. And so like, I don't know, just let people play fucking sports, man. And then at the very top, let the governing bodies for the NBA, the WNBA, let the Olympic Committee decide. They're going to fucking get it wrong. They're going to get it right. Who fucking knows? But let them do it. That's their job, not mine.
And you know, the other thing as well, Bill, that I feel it a lot is just fucking leave me alone. You know, and that
Non-Oliver, nobody even really knows you're there. I keep forgetting your name, Non-Oliver. I know his first name is Francis, but I keep forgetting his last name.
With COVID, where it just felt that it was almost a reason for the government to stick their little finger into your life and also incentivize other people to do it as well.
I think a lot of people in government and the medical community, they sincerely believe they're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. So these are two separate entities, the government and the medical community. There's some crossover when it comes to public health, but a lot of public health officials are not medical professionals. They rely on their team. So these are not like, these groups are, sometimes the government, and even during COVID, sometimes the government and the medical community were at odds with one another.
You know, safetyism. They see safety, which is the short-term good of lockdowns and masks and mandates.
Bill, you lived in Los Angeles. You were never locked down. I lived during the height of the pandemic. I lived in Campbell, California, one of them 15-minute cities people bitch about. It just happens to be one of those. I went outside every day. I probably went out and fucking did more shit outside during the height of like they were calling it at first it was shelter in place, but then it was I forget what it was. But anyway, during all that, I probably went out and did more shit than I like outdoor stuff than I do now.
And all that kind of stuff. I mean, first of all, they may not be right about the efficacy of the vaccine, but
how do you wait? What do you mean right about the who's they? Which, yeah, they, as he says, were pretty dead on about how well the vaccine worked, at least on the first variant. It could have been a little more clear about some things, about how they're like, oh, it stops the transmission. Well, it reduced the transmission. I know they meant stops. I know they meant reduced, and like whatever. But we've beaten this horse to death. I'm sick of talking about this stuff.
As far as safety, they think they're doing the right thing, but they're in the system. You know, it's that kind of thing where, do you really know you slowly just fall into the groupthink of, okay, this is how we handle the problem, lockdown, vaccine.
Bill Maher was never locked down.
Vaccines, you know, are to me a tool that I'm very glad we have, but I should get to pick whether I want or not based on the pathogen and my situation. And there could be something that comes along where I would be the first online. Yeah. Vaccines generally work.
Yeah.
You know.
Bill,
again, this one worked. The boosters work. This is they keep Nirvana fallacying this. Tylenol tends to work for a headache. Oh, it didn't get rid of your headache this one time? Well, maybe your headache was not just, maybe your headache was a muscle cramp in the back of your neck and it felt like a headache. So the Tylenol, it sort of reduced the pain, but it didn't relieve the, the cramp in the muscle in the back of your neck. They just Nirvana fallacy this, and that's that's how that's one of the main anti-vaxxer things is they're like, well, it's not perfect, and it's like, well, no medical intervention is perfect, and there's zero medical interventions that have zero rate of side effect. Like, what other medical intervention do people even apply this standard to?
back to this conversation about lying because it's interesting to me. I really respect your work. As one of the reasons is I've always been more interested in satire than comedy. And you, at your best, I think, are satirical in that you are talking about political issues. You're making fun of both sides very often. And I think that really is the job of people like you, is to point out where...
Well, it certainly isn't you or Non-Oliver's job.
The hypocrisies are, where the lack of truth is, etc. But not many people are now doing that with comedy, it feels like.
Well, they do it on one side, but they pause when it comes down to saying something that's going to make their completely liberal audience disapprove. You know, they take the path of least resistance when it comes to stuff on the left that is worthy of making fun of, because the audience doesn't want to hear that. Or they really believe it. I mean, it's more by omission, you know? I mean, they'll do Biden jokes about his age or something like that, which is fairly anodyne, but you never really are in question about what the take, you know, what the point of view is.
That's the point. But the point of view, it's so important, and it's so important that the point of view is not boring. That the point of view is not the same as everybody else's point of view.
My friend calls it "let me guess" policy. It's brilliant, and let me guess, and it's always, and I'm not ever let me guess.
That's so uninteresting, isn't it?
And they just won't. Like I remember there was this. About 2 years ago, a shooter, some nut, mass shooting in, I think, Atlanta, and he killed a bunch of Asian people because they ran massage parlors. Do you remember this case?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And I read the stories, and it was clear by the end of the week, and I said on the air, it's not what the media is saying, that he wasn't mad at Asians. He was mad at people who were jerking him off because he was a Christian. Everybody in his life said it. The FBI said it. And the other...
But it's not like one or the other. Like, that doesn't have to just be one thing. Like, my take on that with the thing he was talking about, it happened in Atlanta. The guy did go after a bunch of alleged happy ending massage parlors. I think a lot of it was like he was like basically an MRA. He was like traditional religious sort of, but it was like when his stuff from social media came out, what I saw was the men's rights movement.
People would not move off this narrative. And that's the difference between truth and narrative. It's like the narrative is, you know, it's part of this giant anti-Asian crime wave. And I'm sure there is...
I mean, he's sort of right there, but he's almost there, but it's because this guy's sort of the way in which, I guess my take on this is that a lot of people actually sort of missed Gamergate. Because it was called Gamergate, they sort of assumed it was happening over there, like in like gamer space, and that it had nothing to do with like regular people in the real world. But we live in a Gamergate world. Like, that shit was huge. That shit, like, it was the weaponization of a previously basically failed men's rights movement. And if your analysis of basically anything after 2014 lacks any mention of Gamergate and the spill out from that and all the miniature like micro celebrities that were created from that, then you're like missing just a big part of what's going on in culture and what people call the culture war.
That are, you know, committed against Asians as they are against other peoples, and we should stop them all. But this was not one of them. They just shoved this fucking thing, you know, hole that just fit a get in there, you know, just get the fuck. And it's like,
I mean, I guess for the substance of this, I agree with. The guy hated women.
Closing a suitcase and I hate that shit.
I think we all do, because what it puts us in, Bill, is in a really
Problem is if Konstantin here, Laugh Track Konstantin and Non Oliver, were to kind of grapple with the sexism that was going on in that shooting, then they'd have to sort of grapple with their guest list, because there's a lot of fucking Gamergate burnouts in their fucking rotation of guests too.
Well, we stop believing what we've been told in the news and newspapers, and once that happens, you're in a, like I said, you're in a really dangerous situation, because people go, this is all fake, this is all fake. So when the next pandemic comes along, for example, as it will do, or there's some other type of emergency, you're just going to get whole swathes of people going, I don't believe any of this.
Well, the CDC has already lost a lot of credibility. I mean,
in what way? Like in overreacting when they didn't have all the information, and then generally with when new information came along, publishing the new information. You know, a lot of these people, I feel like they think that that these large organizations need to apologize to them individually when they make the wrong call, when they overreach a little too much. Especially like if you remember, remember when because they're back at the fucking COVID thing. Remember when it first started, people were like washing down surfaces. There were people who were like leaving their Amazon or using gloves to get their Amazon packages and then taking them maybe to their backyard or their back porch, leaving them there for a day or two before they opened them, because they were fucking probably just racist against the Chinese because the fucking products were made in China. And like, we didn't know shit when it first started. Then we figured out it wasn't really transferred on surfaces. So you stopped seeing people wearing gloves at the fucking store. Like, okay.
They all did when, you know, people lived through it. So they remember, oh, yeah, I remember washing the mail for 6 months for no fucking reason.
Nobody washed the mail,
you know.
And it wasn't for 6 months. It was actually from the time that it was like identified that there was a virus that was likely going to be a fucking problem, to the time that it was discovered, we figured out, and I just mean like until the time that it was determined with a pretty high level of accuracy that it was primarily airborne. That was a few weeks. It's like a month, not 6 months. But I guess it depends on where you place the start of the pandemic or whatever. I place it at the first, like, and I lived in the county probably that had the first stay-at-home order, Santa Clara County. And when that stay-at-home a suggestion, actually, it wasn't even an order, came out, that's sort of where I placed the beginning of my pandemic experience. And it wasn't very long after that it was found out that it is airborne, almost exclusively airborne.
The mail, really? So again, my big theme, they don't fucking know that much. So don't like make pronouncements like you have a monopoly on the truth. It's so anti-science that people are like, follow the science. Can be so anti-science.
Wait, but he just did a Jim Brewer. Did you see? He just did a Jim Brewer impression, and it absolutely has a Non-Oliver and stitches over there.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. And Bill, did you see this coming? Because I remember
COVID?
No, not
No,
COVID.
I did
Mate,
not.
he was there. He was there in China.
In the lab, just
I did
Yeah.
not see it coming.
No, I don't mean this. I mean the culture. I mean where we are now as a society.
No.
But I do remember your stand-up from way back when, talking about how we now prioritize feelings over truth and all of this stuff.
No, I mean, my first show was called Politically Incorrect.
Right.
Yeah.
That was 30 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely recognized it as political correctness, which I was asked a lot because I named the show that. It was like, what does that mean to you? You know, the elevation of sensitivity over truth, I think, was one of my big answers. And just the opposite of, you know, when someone is political, it means they're full of shit, usually.
Yeah.
You know?
Wait, but aren't you're a political commentator, and these guys, I don't know what these guys are. They claim to have been comedians.
Politically incorrect was, let's just say what it is. So I did see that it was a problem 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It just got worse.
but
I mean, I tried to put a stake in its heart, and it obviously
Just made it, you made it strong.
Yeah.
especially with the internet, but
Yeah.
also the generations. I mean, we just keep
Kids these days.
Each generation is more fragile.
Yeah.
If you can believe it, they said that about my generation.
Yep.
From the World War II, people were like, these boomer kids are so spoiled.
Yeah, but Bill, now does he not see what he's doing? He's just becoming the thing that he used to hate. Maybe he has fully become the thing that he used to make fun of.
Why we don't even beat them every night, you know. When I think of like how idyllic I think my childhood was, but also like so different than kids today, and not coddled nearly as much.
No, but you know what I was thinking about political correctness 30 years ago. It wasn't really the same people doing it. Like my heroes growing up, it was George Carlin and
never know what would have happened, but George Carlin had some things to say about the conversation that they're having right now. He was asked about this very stuff, and he just said one of the things he said that I really liked was he said something about like I don't have the right for people to think I'm funny, which was really good. But he also said that like, listen, you know, if your jokes are just going after people who have been like historically belittled, people who have been discriminated against, then you're just being a jerk. And I don't know the exact words. Maybe if we can find that for the post game, because what he said about it was real smart. And I think he said something funny during it too. He managed to crack a couple jokes while he was saying it. George Carlin would, unless he changed a bunch, he would have not. I don't think he would have liked these people at all.
And you were also talking about religion, because it was the Christian right,
Right,
who wanted to shut people like you down.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted you not to be able to joke about religion.
No, that's
And now it isn't them really leading the charge. I know they exist. I know they're out there. I know they don't like you joking about religion, but they're not the driving force behind political correctness in 2023. Would you agree with
no,
that?
of course. That's again here.
But this is like taking away like the religious right is ascendant in the United States right now. I don't know about in the UK, but I think that might be true too. Although in the UK, it's more of UK has always been a little more secular, at least in modern times has been a little more secular. Like the Church of England ain't even really, it's not really that godly or whatever. But yeah, the religious right is ascendant right now. Maybe not demographically, but politically, they're ascendant. They're making huge gains.
That's my fucking defense when people are like, well, you've changed. No, they changed.
No, you changed. That's a combination. It's a combination of him changing by not changing at all, then him just changing. He used to make fun of homophobes and people who didn't like trans people. He used to make fun of the idea of reverse racism. He used to make fun of some of the shit that they're bitching about in this right here.
In every issue I could do that with. We're like, this is old school liberal and this is woke. Like, I noticed we have completely given up on the idea that the thing to do if you're overweight is diet and exercise, which was like...
Wait, have we given up on that idea, or have we given up on, like, the thing that people are saying is that, like, we shouldn't be shitty to fat people? It's not that the healthy way to live is to eat right and exercise has been like that people don't believe. Yeah, everybody knows that it's better to eat right and exercise than to not eat right and not exercise. Get the fuck out of here. It's just that it's become less socially acceptable to just be really rude to people because they're fat.
I mean, it was Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Michelle Obama we loved her for that. She took the perfect message, first lady. Now that's like, I mean, you never read in the New York Times that, like no. It's just in fact, we don't know really why. I mean, they're kind of...
Well, there are many factors actually that go into someone's weight, not just diet and exercise, but nobody's saying that you shouldn't eat a well-balanced diet and exercise, that you shouldn't do that. They're just saying that doesn't mean you're going to be thin, or that you're going to be thin. Like he was saying, oh, people are ignoring the science. Maybe you should listen to the scientists on this, the people who are studying these matters.
Page, but we have Ozempic, and, once again, it's a pharmaceutical solution. I'm not saying that's a giant conspiracy. I'm saying drug makers are not in the business of healing humanity. They're in the business of selling drugs. they do it by healing humanity a lot. I mean, I'm glad we have pharmaceutical companies. I mean, we need their shit sometimes, and they've done a lot of great things, but they want to sell drugs.
He just touched his hair when he said they did a lot of great things. Do you think he got his hair back through pharmaceuticals?
They have one
I don't care. My hair's falling out. No shame in it.
They'll sell it to you, and they're not. Are they sure about side effects or what the real health repercussions? I think we're kind of like, I mean, they don't know why it works. You know that?
No.
Ooh, this is what Scientology says about almost any mental health drug. Actually, is that that the mechanism by which it works is not known. I bet that this is like a half truth, right? I bet this is like a half truth, not a full truth.
No idea why it works. They know that it works, not why, not a clue. So wouldn't that give you pause?
It would do, yeah.
Okay, so again, like this is where liberalism was 10 years ago, and this is where it is now.
Wait, this has nothing to wait. What? That's not liberal. What this is that. What? No, that's where Scientology was 10 years ago, and that's where Scientology is now.
Do you think sometimes the problem is every time that we come to America, it's
that's the problem.
Yeah,
that is actually the problem that they go to America.
We come to America, yeah.
Right.
But it's a culture built around consumerism and ease, making everything as easy as possible and comfort.
So is yours.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, have you ever experienced?
As they talk about from a room Bill had custom built at his big ass house in fucking probably Hollywood.
It's not about comfort.
Well, that furniture doesn't look very comfortable.
But do you see what I mean?
About England?
No, about the US. It's that everything is about making things as easy as possible. And if you do that,
but I think that's a lot of countries now. Yeah. Because I mean, England became America.
Yeah, we import your culture.
I mean, I remember being in England first time in the 80s, and it was very different.
Yeah.
Very
well, but so was America in the 80s. Everywhere was very different in the 80s. You showed somebody a fucking, like an iPhone in the 80s. Depending on where you were, they might have burned you as a witch. They might have brought back the witch trials if you showed them an iPhone.
How so?
Well, first of all, London was like all white.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was.
You know.
Oh, no.
Can we just celebrate that victory that we made a place more diverse and not, you know?
Well, at least he had okay. At least he said the right thing there. He's like, could we at least celebrate that London is more diverse? But he's going to go the other way. He's going to go, well, now it's too diverse and there's too much fucking curry. Too many packy shops.
Never get a pat on the back.
No.
The people who like achieve, I feel like in that area, there's only like, there's more to do. Of course there's more to do. But can we just get a little, hey, I think I read in Andrew Sullivan's.
Oh no, you read in Andrew Sullivan's? Was it a piece about phrenology? Was he like, well, now everybody's skull's starting to be the right shape?
London went from like 36% to like 86% people of color, or something like that. No, maybe that's too high, but something
majority
like a
minority.
50-point swing, 50 points in 2 generations, 3 generations.
So when they say majority minority, that's a thing that doesn't make any sense. What they mean is London is much like where I lived in San Jose, and I think even where I live now, the city I live in, there is no majority race. There is a plurality, and I think where I live now, the plurality is probably white folks. I think San Jose, it may still be, but the plurality in San Jose may be Latinx folks. And I think in London, I don't know, I may still be plurality white, but that when they say majority minority, that's stupid. What they mean is that there's no majority group. And that's fine. No group that is 50% plus one. No racial group. That's fine. That's a fully integrated city.
Okay, that's progress. I'm not a bad person to like clap for progress.
But that is an issue. That is a real issue, Bill. Because people never want to admit when things are going well. And if you only start going, oh, everything's terrible, then you start convincing everybody else that everything's terrible when it's not.
I mean,
it's all vibes based.
I feel like this is something that divides the two parties. I feel like Republicans are too like peppy about America and very sentimental about America.
Well, and a lot of times they're like sentimental about a past that didn't really exist.
Think things are better, like racially. I think they're in denial about racism, which is still a thing, and the left is like over exaggerating it. They're so down on America, and it's, by the way, something immigrants don't like about the left.
I hate that about them.
Wait, how do you know that? That if the immigrants don't like that about the left, why is it when people become naturalized from other countries, Bill, why do they tend to vote for Democrats? And why do Republicans hate that? Why do Republicans hate immigration? They hate it, first of all, because those people are brown, they're not white, but they also hate it because they see a shift. Immigrants and the first generation after them lean so hard toward the Democratic Party that the Republican Party, that's one of the reasons they hate immigration. I mean, they also have like more base reasons for it, more deep down inside tribalistic, fearful reasons for it. But the policymakers, the people who are looking at, like, kind of trying to project the future of politics, they hate it because when people move here, they don't like no Republicans. The Republicans are racist.
With a passion.
People who work so hard to get here, and then all you do is hear what a shithole it is. And also, it's just, again, factually wrong, because we can know what's going on in other countries. And again, these people who do not know things like this, but it does not in the least deter them from tweeting and talking and saying things. And
But Bill just said a little while ago that he was able to tell everybody that their jokes about Italy were dumb because of the premise of the joke, and then he was like, but I don't know anything about Italy. I don't know anything about their politics.
Videos where they, men on the street with, 20-year-old kids and like, I'd like to live anywhere but here. Really? What do you know about Somalia? What do you know about Karachi, Pakistan? I see this porn star was very pro-Palestine.
Yeah.
Khalifa.
Yeah.
And try practicing porn in Gaza.
But that's the thing, is like there's a bit of an information vacuum on this, and this is this whole shit that they do all the time. I'm gonna fucking talk about this all the time. When I talk about, hey, I don't like this, I don't like, I just generically say, hey, I don't like this, bigotry against Middle Eastern people and people that you might believe are Islamic or a Muslim, regardless of their religion, right? People just assume they're Muslim because they're from the Middle East. Some of those people are Sikh. Some of those people are actually from India and are Hindu. Hell, some of those people are fucking Christian. But they just take a look at that person, they got the Muslim or whatever. And, I would just say something like, oh, I don't really care. I'm not really bigoted against them. And I don't think you should be either. I think you're an asshole. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, they throw fucking gay people off of buildings in Saudi Arabia or whatever. And I'm like, motherfucker, I don't live in Saudi Arabia. And if they do throw people off buildings in Saudi Arabia, well, that's bad. But that doesn't mean I should be shitty to somebody who lives down the street from me.
Have you seen that Queers for Palestine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Was that on a T-shirt?
It was a flag. There was a bunch of people
Right.
holding up a flag saying "Queers for Palestine."
I think I've seen that.
But like, yes, I don't know. I don't know what the average Palestinian thinks of gay people. Do you? Do we have any information on that? Is there any polling? I think maybe as the bombs are falling on you, you're not really so worried about who your neighbor's fucking. I don't know. I don't know what it's like.
On a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And try walking down the street with that. I could name a lot of places in the world.
Do you think we're victims of our own success in the West?
Yes,
We're so comfortable,
exactly.
so wealthy,
That's
so
what it is.
But also, like, try being trans in certain places in the South or in certain places in Britain.
I mean, Francis makes this point always. It's a
Absolutely.
great point. The biggest privilege any of us enjoy is first world privilege. That's the privilege.
Yeah, I say very similar things about the people who just go on and on about privilege. Don't realize that they're always being propped up by the privilege of being impractical, loose thinking, and you're just like head in the clouds, which is a great privilege to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's ironic.
It is.
We'll be back with our guest in a minute. But first,
Fuck your commercial.
go.
Don't ever send any money to anybody on Give, Send, Go.
Are you hopeful for America, Bill?
Well, I ain't going anywhere, so yeah. And, I mean, I am.
No.
I am
What
like,
about Mogadishu?
This motherfucker lives in Hollywood. He fine. He probably lives in like a gated community on the hill.
I'm amazed a little bit. I am amazed a little bit that we take, man, this country, we take a licking and we keep on fucking ticking.
Wait, when was the last time we took a licking? I can only think of 2 times we took any kind of licking. Pearl Harbor and 9/11. We ain't taking no kind of licking. Somebody in the chat mentioned Vietnam. Yeah, but Vietnam happened over there. Right, we didn't take no licking here.
Really? We keep on ticking. I mean, I thought the pandemic with that kind of spending and keeping people home would take us down. No, Trump. I can't believe we survived Trump. Are you guys Trumpers?
No.
No.
However, I will ask you this because it's interesting to me. I did not like him. His personality is obnoxious. I didn't like it.
Among other things. Yes.
But this is what I want to ask you, right? Because I don't know enough about American politics to say whether his policies were good.
Really?
I don't, honestly.
Oh, please.
I don't.
Why are you suddenly pleading ignorance on this? This is what you do.
No, hold on.
What, but Bill, whatever. Bill thinks he knows everything. And that's actually a decent question from Bill. He's like, what do you mean you don't know?
Well, let's break it down, right? So, was his policy on the border better or worse than Joe Biden?
Looks like it's the same now. Because
Right.
Biden's building the wall.
At least he was trying, right? I mean, Biden's just letting people in like crazy. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought a wall was a terribly practical solution because people have thought of it before, and there's just a lot of like things obviously he couldn't get through. Obviously he couldn't get it through. So that's how hard it is. You know, it's private land, or you just can't build a unporous border. Look, if the Republicans were serious about wanting to stop immigration, what they would do is they would crack down on the hiring. But they don't want to because they want the cheap labor. So they want to pretend that they are stopping people from coming in and they don't like people coming in, but they like it. Drives down wages, and they could do that. You could crack down on that end of it.
Okay.
But that doesn't happen. Nobody's going through the kitchen and yelling, immigration!
From my perspective, it doesn't seem like Biden is better than Trump on that. When I look at the international situation, I mean, the American respect for America is breaking down around the world. That's why you see all these conflicts.
Well, they say that every year.
Well, we see more conflicts every year.
Are you kidding?
Now again, this is stuff where this is stuff where I am going to tend to agree with Bill. No matter who the president is, they're like, "Oh, you're making us a laughing stock all over the world." It's just a political talking point that one party will use against the other. But I will say that other world leaders, they hated Donald Trump. They hated him. They loved Barack Obama. And they hated Donald Trump.
Kicking ass. We came back better from the pandemic economically than any other big boy country. I don't know how we do it, but if you look at like the stock market from like 1990 to now, like if you had your money in American stocks, like 3-4 times better than anywhere else.
I'm talking about.
Whoa, wait. But this is like, okay, so the problem is that he's probably talking about the S&P 500. And there's a bit of a sampling error there. What is that? Survivorship bias, I think I would call it. It's like economic survivorship bias. It depends on where you put your fucking money, because a lot of people lost everything in between like basically 1997 and 2001 because of the crash of Silicon Valley. A lot of people lost everything in between 2007 and 2009 because of the economic crash caused by the real estate business. And so like a lot of those, if a lot of those companies are no longer in the stock market because they don't exist.
It matters.
Of course it matters.
You know,
no, you're right.
I mean, the dollar is nobody's really even pretending that they could like replace the dollar or would want to. I mean, with our kind of debt, at some point, is some of this going to come crashing down? It absolutely could.
Well, a lot of it did come crashing down. It's just that when you look at the S&P 500, the companies that came crashing down aren't on there anymore.
I don't know. Like, we just keep on ticking. I'm surprised that with all the shit going on, but
America's a great country, but what I'm trying to get at with you, it is a great country.
no, I'm not Mr. Rah-Rah. I'm just saying these are the facts. The biggest, like 5 biggest tech companies in the world, I think, are all American. Now China has, some things that we don't, but our military is still like, there's nobody even close.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I'm just saying, so.
I'm Team America. I am.
No, this isn't about bragging about America. This is just factually like where we are. Let's not be,
100%.
Let's not have the wrong idea in our head about where our exact place in the world is. We're taking on water, but for some reason we're not sinking.
I'm just trying to get to the question, which is, you said something, which is very interesting to me. You're a smart guy, you're a nuanced thinker, but you said we survived Trump, and that surprised you.
Totally.
What is it?
I'm not surprised that that's the bill catastrophized too much about Donald Trump. I think that what people refer to as the deep state made it impossible for him to destroy the country. It makes it impossible for anybody to do it in 4 years, probably in 8 too. And it's a good thing we have an 8-year term limit on presidents.
So give people...
Because he's crazy, first of all. He's stupid and he's crazy.
Is he stupid, Bill?
So...
He can't be
He thought
stupid.
Frederick Douglass was alive. Are you kidding? Yes, he's stupid. He has a Hitlerian ability to move crowds.
Okay.
Often with the same sort of thoughts about...
Yeah, the Hitler stuff I don't like either.
The soil and all this shit. Obviously, he never went where Hitler went. I'm not comparing him with Hitler in that way, but just as a insane, but that also made him genius politician who can move people and just owns fucking people, just like owns them. And that's his talent. But is he stupid? Yes. And he's fucking crazy.
But on those two things in Congress that you've just said, that he's a politician of genius and he's stupid.
Politician.
Yeah, of genius. But
yes.
But that's
the only genius he is. Politically, he's a genius.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't even think about it. It just comes out of his id. And that works for people. Even though he's the most full of shit guy, he also is like the most honest. Like when he says shithole countries, like lots of immigrants are like, yeah, that's exactly where I came from. Why do you think I fucking walked 1,000 miles to get here? Because I was in a shithole. And
this is a historical. A lot of these countries are in, like, not all of their problems, honestly, but a lot of these countries suffer from the wrath of the CIA. Like CIA, South America. CIA did a number on South America, and it's not like because it slowed down to some extent after the turn of the century. It's not like the ramifications of that aren't still in effect today.
This guy doesn't mince words, and because he almost, he can't help himself. He reveals himself. It's insanity photographs. What can I tell you? So he's mesmerizing to the media too. So he gets all that coverage. But yes, am I surprised we survived? And we really haven't yet, because he still hasn't conceded that election.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
Just the idea of a guy who doesn't concede elections. Okay.
Oh, but the idea of like a sore loser is nothing new. Like the idea that somebody's like, oh, I only lost because everybody else cheated. That's not new. It is interesting that somebody like that got to be the president, but I mean, had to happen eventually.
Guys should stop worrying about all these other little. That's it. That's the ball game. If the guy doesn't concede elections,
did Hillary concede elections?
Yeah, of course Hillary conceded.
She said he's an illegitimate president.
When did she say that?
She said that in 2016. She said he knows he is an illegitimate president.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did. And I take responsibility for those parts of it that I should. And so I know that he knows.
Like the answer to this is that she conceded on election night. That's it. She conceded that she lost the election on election night. Not some fucking Hillary stan, but she conceded the election on the night of the election. That's it.
That this wasn't on the level. I don't know that we'll ever know everything that happened, but clearly we know a lot and are learning more every day, and history will probably sort it all out. So of course he's obsessed with me, and I believe that it's a guilty conscience in so much as he has a conscience.
I also question whether or not they know. Now this is, again, like, I don't really like Bill Maher either, but I also question, did they play that like in for him during this, or did they hack that in post?
After the election.
Yeah. Russia collusion, what was that if not denying the election? They made up a story, which was a hoax.
Well, it wasn't a hoax.
Yeah, it was. It
Well,
wasn't
just
true.
what wasn't true? What part
The
of it?
Russia collusion, the idea that
There was collusion with Russia.
The idea
there
that
was absolute collusion with
Is
Russia.
that why he won the election, do you think?
Partly. It was
Yeah, there were a lot of but-fors. One of the big things, though, is that she didn't, she took the Rust Belt for granted. She didn't go up there and campaign in Michigan, Pennsylvania, like the Great Lakes area. The only person on her team who went up there and campaigned up there was one Mr. Bernie Sanders.
Post-election. Yeah, you don't think Russia could sway, 77,000 votes in 3 states? Of course they could. And they did. Partly through social media, partly for their propaganda there and what they were trying to do there, which was very successful, cost about $100,000. And then, Trump's campaign manager was trading campaign data with a GRU.
I think what Trump was saying is completely wrong. I agree. But
there was collusion.
But the Democrats also denied the election in 2016.
No. Again, no. This is just a lie. Whether you like Trump or don't like Trump, or like Hillary or don't like Hillary, Hillary Clinton conceded on election night. If she said afterward, there's all kind of funny business going on, okay, well, she can say that afterward all she wants. She conceded on election night. That's it. That's all.
Okay, maybe one time Hillary said something like that. You ask her today, this is not an issue for the Democrats. You're making a ridiculously false...
You think?
Comparison. Of course. Democrats are not the ones who deny elections. Hillary got up there in her fucking purple suit and said, we lost. Al Gore did it, took one for the fucking team in 2000.
Agreed.
That's what he should have said first. He should have said she conceded on election night. That's it. That's the whole thing. It doesn't matter really. Like, she conceded on election night. She said that the election was over.
Ridiculous false comparison.
False comparison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So looking at Trump, and let's look at on a global scale, like we were talking.
The Gore thing was different. The Al Gore thing, but again, it took a couple days. But then he conceded too, and that one was a very different thing with Al Gore. I wonder how much different the world would have been if it would have been Gore instead of Bush. I think, if you don't win the popular vote, I don't give a fuck who you are, which party you're in. That's my opinion, is if you got less votes than your opponent, then you did win. Whether or not the Electoral College swung your way or whatever, you didn't win. I know that's the rules of the game and shit, but I don't know. What kind of loser doesn't get the most votes?
If you look at with Biden when he's come to power, there has been the Russian invasion of Ukraine. There has been the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. And you've also as well got, Bill, now this situation flaring up. And some people would say the argument that they put forward is this is all happening because Biden is a weak leader. People have seen that and are using that opportunity to then pursue their own ends.
Well, whenever I hear something like the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, it's just right-wing talking point. Not that it's not true. It is true, but it's like, really give a shit. I mean,
Like, how do you withdraw when you lost?
absolutely. I'm not sure.
how are you
America
supposed to
ever
withdraw?
handles anything well. We're just a fuck up country now in a lot of ways. I don't know if any president under any conditions, but this one finally said, let's get the fuck out of here. This is a crazy thing to be here forever. We're here 20 years. We just got to go. I mean, it's probably going to be shitty no matter how we do it. Now, you know, if Mitt Romney was president, would it have gone better? Yeah, I bet it would. Because Mitt Romney was like much more of a detail, you know, he tried to cast himself as a conservative, real hard right guy when he ran. He was a manager of detail. He was a Mormon, couldn't be a nicer guy. Could he have?
Oh, I don't know if Mitt Romney's a nice guy. I don't know that. I wouldn't go so far as to call Mitt Romney a nice guy, but he's not a nice guy.
Been the guy who like stayed up looking
What, a venture capitalist? What was he?
plans and the
Like
data
a real estate kind of venture
Clinton
capitalist
was
guy?
that guy. You know, people who really like government want to make it work well. Biden's not that guy.
Yeah.
He didn't do that with Afghanistan. But it's like, you know, just so reflexive. Here's something we can hate about this guy who we want to talk bad about. I'm not on that page. That's a little too.
And another thing I'm noticing here is Bill doesn't do really well, actually, when people try to challenge him on what he's saying. See, on his own show or whatever, on like Real Time, that just doesn't really happen. Like like what they're saying is like so easy to bat down.
Just one-sided for me. You know, do I love everything with Joe Biden? Absolutely not. Last week I called for him to not run again. Ruth Bader Biden, I would call.
You think he's too old?
I think the country does, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And he will not win. He'll look terrible in the debates, and Trump will win, and that will be a disaster. And there should be no discussion after he does not concede elections. Yes, Stacey Abrams also said something about, this is like, yes, you can.
But Stacey Abrams also conceded her election on election night.
Make some case on the other side. It has nothing to do with a guy who was president, never advertised he was never going to concede an election. Didn't, still doesn't, will do it again. That's nothing is on that level. If that is where you are, I don't care what his fucking policy on Turkmenistan is.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I might care what the policy on Turkmenistan is. There's people there.
Correct. It's what we have over the other countries. That so many other countries in the world can't get that one thing right.
Yeah.
Like the old Soviet days used to always see like they would check like who was standing closest to the coffin, and that was usually the guy who knocked off the guy before him, and who was going to be next, and
what is it? The
it
Americans
wasn't done through a system. It was like who's just going to it was Survivor.
Yeah.
You know, and then it was Brezhnev, okay, and then he got to be, and then, that's not the way we did it, and this guy wants to bring that to here.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Do you think
it's-
one of the distinctions as well is what happened on January the 6th, right? Because whatever the Democrats may
They
have
did
said,
steal a door. I don't know if anybody, I think we're the only ones that really even talk about that. We watched them take a door from inside of the Capitol.
that never happened. That it was just a different level, people physically
Right.
going into the Capitol. And
It's not what Trump said on that day. It wasn't like he got up there and said, go and take over the Capitol. Kind of, but not totally. It was that up until that moment, he still hadn't conceded.
Yeah.
It was it's not one moment. It was like his
agreed.
whole view that he was telling his people that this, and when you do this against what Republican vote counters were telling him,
Do you think?
that's bending over backwards.
Yeah.
Even the Republicans told him, his own people.
Yeah.
And the decent people who are Republicans in many states, all these states where lawsuits were, this was laughed out of court like 60 times or something. And they still tried to peddle that boat. That is just unacceptable. Don't come to me with and Trump did this. No.
That's fair enough, Bill. And do you think in 2024, do you think he's gonna win the nomination? Do you think he's gonna go the whole way?
That's there's no doubt he'll be the nominee. And he very well could win. And then we would be, I believe, governed by him under house arrest at Mar-a-Lago. That's probably where he will be. And he will run the country from Mar-a-Lago. They will never put him in jail, but he will be convicted, at least in one of these trials.
Wait, why wouldn't they? Okay, so if it's Georgia, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, if it's Georgia, he's got RICO charges there. They're not going to put him on home arrest in Mar-a-Lago if he gets convicted. And that's where I think the strong case against the guy is in Georgia, because all his people are flipping.
I mean, it'll be like in Goodfellas where they smuggle in a salami. He's got a wine. They're wearing tracksuits. I mean, this is not going to be some Jeffrey Epstein jail cell. He'll probably be house arrest at Mar-a-Lago. That is where that's the final, and then AI takes over in that work. I honestly, with AI, don't think we'll make it through the decade.
You've been reading about that.
I got
no. At least the answer is no. I haven't been reading about AI.
Iris on Real Time Friday, and we're going to talk about it. And I have been reading about it, and it's super frightening. But yeah, I got to go back to my day job.
Bill, what a pleasure! It's been great.
Such a pleasure.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys coming in. I love what you do. I feel like this.
You would have made fun of them 15 years ago.
Tonight was well in order. I hope to see it reflected in your show in the future. All right, best of luck, folks.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, well, that was something. It at the end, it got to partisan politics, which I kind of hate talking about on this channel, and I'm really glad I was here by myself, actually, for the partisan politics stuff. I love my co-host, HK. He's a good friend of mine and a good co-host, but we end up talking past each other when partisan politics stuff comes up because I don't want to talk about it that much. I'm not that interested in it. I only do one show a week that even really touches on partisan politics in any sort of meaningful way. But what we learned here is that Bill's not really good when he's being pushed back on, even when he's right. Like when they started saying that Hillary didn't concede the election. Yes, she did. She did it on election night. If afterwards she said there were all this whack shit that happened, and that's why I lost or whatever. And she also doesn't like the Electoral College. I don't like the Electoral College. I think it's fucking stupid. I think it's a relic. I don't understand why, somebody in Wyoming's vote is worth, I think it's worth 8 times mine because of the way the Electoral College is structured. There's no, why are we penalized for living in cities? I don't understand. It should be one person, one vote or whatever, but that's neither here nor there. And that's not really what this show is about. That wasn't as interesting or in line with what Intellectual Dollar Tree is usually about as I thought it was going to be. I thought they were going to spend way more time bitching about supposed cancel culture, but they didn't really spend a whole lot of time on that. It was mostly Bill kind of grandstanding about the fact that he had edgy shows back in the day. And the one thing that didn't come up is that Bill actually has done some work doing stand-up. He came out of stand-up, and it would have been nice for him to sort of push at them a little bit about the idea that they had been stand-up comedians. Because all indications are that those guys were never part of any London stand-up scene. We watched an interview of Konstantin once where he said he had to drive his car for 4 hours to a gig when he lived in London. It's well, why couldn't you get a gig in London? Anyway, that's enough about that. I really don't like Konstantin and Non-Oliver, as you can tell. We got some great stuff here for the post game. So stick around, and I got some hello I am debates in the chat. Anybody's welcome to join the Discord and talk to me for a few minutes. If you don't like what I have to say, don't mind talking to people. The Discord is discord.me/Echoplex, which I never mention on the podcast. If you're listening to the podcast too, it's a great place to hang out. It's if you've been in Discords about political channels where other people are just fucking arguing and shit all the time, that's not my Discord. If people start actually just start making trouble in the Discord, we just put them, there's a role in the Discord called annoying read only, and then we put them on read only mode because the Discord is just kind of a place for all of us to hang out. Anyway, that's been the Intellectual Dollar Tree. You can find this on your favorite podcatcher, and don't miss us live on Twitch. That's going to be Tuesday through Sunday most weeks. We usually start sometime between 7 and 9. The schedule is not only in our schedule on the Twitch channel, but also on our website, echoplexmedia.com. We also have some holiday gear, including a couple disco Santas on some sweatshirts. And we have ugly Christmas sweaters with my logo on them. That's at our shop via Fourth Wall. That's at eplex.store. As always, the code NOWSPACE, all caps, gets you 10% off of your order. And be on the lookout. We'll have some discount codes specifically for the holiday stuff. And big shout out to Fourth Wall. They've allowed me to monetize this project in a way that I had never been able to, and honestly kind of never thought I would. This is Boomers by Periscope. I'll see everybody in a few minutes for Red Light.